Hello everyone, this is Saurian Target coming back at you with another entry in our Carnivores Mods Showcase series. But this time it's not for a full-blown mod. Today we're doing something a little special. This mod showcase is covering a skin pack created by Raptorklaw 2.0, who has done some excellent work with not only skins, but appropriate and lifelike sounds for each creature in this lineup. This skin pack includes 10 animals, with 9 of them featuring brand new skins and all 10 featuring brand new sounds and calls. It should be noted, however, that these skins are extremely detailed and many of them are from more anatomically correct dinosaur models. So if you plan on using them in any mods, make sure you take that into account to create a cohesive, not a clashing aesthetic. So without further ado, let's begin. The first creature up in this skin pack is the mighty pterosaur Ornithocheirus, a flying reptile that was likely introduced to many of us thanks to Walking with Dinosaurs. The body looks nicely textured to mimic short fuzz, while the wings look very leathery and the bony head looks appropriately tough and hard. The colors all work very well together. The body and wings camouflage nicely against most daytime skies, with cloud white and gray blue helping the creature blend in before striking fish from above. The head decoration all looks very natural, with the dark patterns complementing the vibrant blues, yellows, and oranges, all very reminiscent of tropical birds. The Ornithocheirus also sounds very natural, with a loud squawking screech in the spirit of stereotypical large pterosaur sounds. The next creature up is the massive Edmontosaurus, a large herbivorous hadrosaur from prehistoric western North America, or as I preferred calling it, Ankylosaurus, but alas, dinosaur names come and go. This Edmontosaurus skin is very reminiscent of the Edmontosaurus from the Walking with Dinosaurs movie, which, coincidentally enough, I just so happened to watch for the first time this past weekend. Now, as I mentioned, this skin is very similar to the dinosaur from the movie, with a gray-brown scaly body and a vibrant red head. The texture work is great. You can make out the individual scale patterns, particularly on the tail and hind legs. The bright head complements the rest of the body nicely, and the dark brown shades with lighter gray patterns splattered across the body really sell the realism aspect of a hardy and grizzled hadrosaur. The calls sound exactly like you would expect a hadrosaur to sound, with the loud honking associated with the group. The dinosaur's idle sounds are very well done. The footsteps appropriately replicate the size of this enormous hadrosaur, and it sounds like a variety of other carnivore sounds are blended together for the creature, such as the Brontotheri and the reborn Stegosaurus. The next creature up is the hardy Pachycephalosaurus, a skin that I have affectionately dubbed George Washington. I mean, look at this guy. With that powdered wig, he looks ready to found a country and headbutt down some cherry trees. All joking aside, I really like this skin. When I first saw it, I instantly thought the skin would camouflage nicely at Fort Siskin at dusk, and I'd say I was correct. For me, it harkens back to the Pachy from the Lost World Jurassic Park, with maroon or pink primary body and shades of gray and blue splattered across. Probably my favorite aspect of the skin is the dark spots all across. They add a nice texture and camouflage element to the skin, perhaps being the actual bruises of many battles with other pachycephalosaurs. I also really like how there's not a hard edge to the creature's claws, how they just fade into the fingers and toes. This is a very stylized touch that I really appreciate. The calls, if memory serves, are those of the Praenocephaly from the Dinosaur Planet program. The sounds are quite fitting for a dinosaur of this type, and have been excellently edited for use in carnivores. The footsteps sound very light, while appropriately thudding sounds play as its head impacts the ground. More Praenocephaly calls are used for its idle sounds. The next dinosaur up is the ferocious Allosaurus, with a skin based on the specimens found in the Ballad of Big Al. As I've said many times before, Allosaurus is my favorite dinosaur of all time, and that's thanks in large part to programs like Walking with Dinosaurs and the Ballad of Big Al. So there may be a little bit of bias on this one. This skin excellently recreates the Allosaurus featured in those programs. Everything from the dark stripes on the side to the red crests to the ringed arms, every detail has been captured here near flawlessly. The skin even uses the original Allosaurus eyes as the crest, which is a fantastic idea, since the original Allosaurus model didn't include eye crests. You can even make out the individual scales on the texture, especially on the feet and on the bottom jaw. The calls are, of course, those from the Ballad of Big Al, featuring dominance calls, mating calls, and intimidation calls. Because the Allosaurus has no idle animations, there aren't that many more aside from the footsteps. But it does feature some excellently used roars from BBC's Allosaurus for its leaping, death, and killing animations. The next dinosaur up in the skin pack is the Reaper lizard, Therizinosaurus. Therizinosaurus has always been an odd dinosaur to me, aside from the fact that all we've discovered of it are its arms, some ribs, and the feet, and constructed a monstrosity like this from those elements. But I've always wondered, what is it? With the head and neck of a sauropod, the arms of a ferocious carnivore, and the body of something from your weirdest imagination, Therizinosaurus has always been a mysterious dinosaur to me. Sometimes it's depicted with scales, and sometimes with feathers, sometimes with spikes, sometimes with wattles, sometimes it looks like it has the mange. You just never know what you're going to get with Therizinosaurus. And I think this skin does a great job in capturing the weirdness of the dinosaur. Aside from the head, it's clear to see that the skin is textured to replicate short feathers covering the dinosaur's body, and I like this approach. It's a nice middle ground between the naked, pot-bellied version and the overstuffed giant ground sloth version. The skin also features many bird-like elements. Aside from the feathers, claws, and beak, the skin features some bright red patches of skin on the neck, very reminiscent of modern-day birds. Speaking of birds, the calls sound somewhat bird-like, but at the same time, kind of not, much like Therizinosaurus itself. There is a subtle squawk to some of them, melded with an alien-like gargle, almost like the calls of the little Godzillas from the 1998 film, while the other call is deep and intimidating. The dinosaur's idle sounds are appropriately odd and kind of gross for such an odd dinosaur as this. You can hear every chomp, every gulp, every claw digging through the dirt, and every piercing shriek. The footsteps appropriately replicate the dinosaur's mass and size with heavy, thudding steps. The next dinosaur in the skin pack is the Anzu, an oviraptorid dinosaur named after a feathered demon from ancient Mesopotamian mythology. This skin hits many of the usual notes associated with oviraptor skins. Blue and red are usually very prominent colors on such dinosaur skins, along with the dark primary colorings along the main body. The skin nicely represents the long feathers covering the dinosaur's body, and the arm feathers are especially detailed and contrast nicely from the rest of the body without clashing. The dinosaur's overall color scheme and texture are very reminiscent of a cassowary, a modern-day dinosaur often studied to replicate its prehistoric ancestors. The skin does have a bit of floating kibble along its back of the neck, so I'm assuming the model initially had long neck feathers, like the Cityscape Oviraptor. I jumped into software mode to see if it was a transparency issue, but it's still there, although it's hardly noticeable unless you're looking for it. The calls, if memory serves, are those of the Oviraptor from Dinosaur Planet. These calls are very loud and abrasive, and should seem extremely fitting to anyone who has watched the program. Like the Allosaurus, the Anzu doesn't feature many idle sound effects, but those of it attacking and killing are chilling and gruesome. The next dinosaur in the pack is the swift Ceratosaurus, a primitive theropod dinosaur often seen as a competitor to Allosaurus. So naturally a dinosaur I rooted against as a child. This Ceratosaurus skin is great for camouflage among lighter toned plains and fields. The dull yellow hide and dark brown stripes provide it with leopard levels of camouflage, with a bright orange snout and a red nose crest, obligatorily linking it to the bright colors of modern-day birds and lizards. Similar to Anzu, the Ceratosaurus has a few floating bits above the eye and nose horns, So I jumped into software mode to check it out, and they're still there, but like Anzu's, they're hardly noticeable. The calls, if memory serves, are those of the Ceratosaurus from the program When Dinosaurs Roamed America, one of the few reality programs to feature Ceratosaurus as a prominent character. The calls are all very appropriate to the skin and model, with the dinosaur's guttural roars complemented by the predatory look. The idle sounds are expertly terrifying, in tune with the deep and ominous growls of the original Ceratosaur, while the footsteps replicate a solid yet light-footed dinosaur. Up next are two skins for the same dinosaur depending on your preference. Feathered male and female Tyrannosaurus skins. Together, the skins represent an element found in many modern-day birds, dark and dull colors on the female with brighter colors on the male, perhaps for intimidation or courtship rituals. We'll start with ladies first. This skin excellently replicates what I imagine a feathered Tyrannosaurus looks like, with shorter plumage covering the back of the neck, body, and tail. If the plumage gets too long, it begins to look like excessively gross body hair to me. Even cassowaries remind me of this. So it's nice to me personally to see a conservatively feathered Tyrannosaurus skin. The texture on the skin is incredible. You can see the folds of the skin on the neck and stomach areas. And the short fuzz looks very soft to the touch. The whole dinosaur just looks very solid, and its contrasting areas flow together nicely, from soft feathers to leathery skin to rough scales. The male skin is equally impressive. The only real change here is a darker red or orange skin to complement the dark feathers, making them stand out even more. The calls for the Tyrannosaurus use some common monster sounds, most notably to the Carnivore series, calls used by the Giganotosaurus in Cityscape and the Ankylosaurus in HD and Reborn. The calls all sound very intimidating, and coming from a Tyrannosaurus, very appropriate. The idle sounds all excellently signify an enormous predator, from heavy footsteps to deep growls and heavy breathing. The final creature in the skin pack is a Sasquatch, although as far as I understand it, this is not a new skin. In fact, I think I've seen this skin before. The new element here is the sounds for the beast, custom made and much more accurate than a copy and paste bear call. The first call is an actual recorded Sasquatch call, and sounds like a northern variant, perhaps from Ohio or Oregon. Using this call at night truly replicates the feeling of being in an Animal Planet Bigfoot hunting program. The next call is a deep, long growl that sounds almost musical. It is very unnerving to use this call and then receive it from a Sasquatch. The final call is very ape-like, using familiar grunts associated with the large primates. The idle sounds are all horrifying, with a healthy mix of ape and man roars to add further fear to the mysterious beast, especially with the kill animation. So there you go, guys. Those are my thoughts on Raptorklaw 2.0's newest skin pack. You did a great job, man. This definitely gets a recommendation from me. Of course, if you want to download it for yourself, which I recommend doing, there will be a link for this skin pack in the description below. Thanks for watching, for all the support, everybody, and I will see you guys next time.